Good morning, YouTube. It's Wednesday, May 26th, and I'm bringing you back for another midweek garden update. Now, I typically do a full garden tour on Saturdays, but last week on Saturday, it was so wet from all the rain that we got last week, I wasn't able to really get in there. And I kind of knew that was going to happen because I saw the forecast and we'd already gotten some of the rain. So last Wednesday, I did a little garden update midweek for you. And I thought I would do that again this week because we missed out on our full tour on Saturday. And with the way our week is lining up so far this week, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do a full tour this Saturday. I hope I will, but I want to bring you along and show you because there's been a lot of changes. The garden has been fully planted now for a little over a week. Things are really starting to take off. And I think over the course of the next week or two, with all of the warm weather and sunshine we're supposed to be getting and all of the rain that we just got, I think things are going to start to explode. So I wanted to show you. I am down here in my tomatoes, peppers, okra, and zucchini rows. And I spent a lot of time out here yesterday weeding the rows themselves. Now the pathways where the wood chips are still have a lot of grass growing up in them. And I don't have any more wood chips to be able to put down in those to help with weed suppression. And I think I'm going to end up switching this entire area of the garden back to tillage, which I've been a big proponent of no-till over the last several years. And I do still fully believe in the benefits of no-till, but I also talk a lot about context. And for me and the season of life that I'm in right now, keeping up with this no-till is too much for this size of a garden for just me because I'm the only one out here doing the work, and I have 2 kids with me all the time, and I have a lot of other things that I'm supposed to be doing in the house. So I'm not going to be able to keep up with it. And I know that everybody is like, well, wood chips are free. You just sign up on Chip Drop. That works great when you live in town. I did that several years ago when I lived in town. I've lived here for 3 years now, and I have tried over and over and over and over. I can't even count how many times I have tried to get wood chips out here. I've reached out, I've signed up on Chip Drop, I've reached out to local tree trimming companies, I've put ads out on Facebook. It doesn't happen when you live this far out. It's not an easily sourced thing. So I don't want to pay for a bunch of wood chips because at this level that's too expensive for me, and I just can't keep up with it. So this small section is going to be turned back into tillage, and when I say small section, I just mean from like where I'm standing 8 rows that way. Well, that's technically 16 rows when you count in the pathways, and they're about 2 foot, so that's about 32 foot by 50 foot is this section here. And so it's going to be moved back into tillage. I'm going to start that process this fall when I rip everything out of the garden. And then the area where I just put a bunch of new landscape fabric and where the arched trellis is, that's going to stay exactly how it is with the landscape fabric and the arched trellis. The area where my cabbages are, which you'll see here in a little bit, is going to stay the same. And in between the arched trellis and the cabbages, I'm going to utilize some raised beds just so that I'm able to manage this garden 100% on my own. So I just wanted to kind of, before I go through this tour, I wanted to let you know that, because as I go through, I'm probably over the next several weeks going to talk about being very frustrated with the grass growing up through the pathways. There's not a lot I can do about it. Probably what's going to end up happening, because at this point I can't pull that by hand all the time. That's a lot of grass. It would take me hours every day to keep up with that. So probably about once a week, I'm gonna have to get out here with a weed eater and try to keep up with it that way. But in the actual rows themselves, I've been trying to weed them. Now I'm going to show you a close-up here real quick. These first couple of rows, I did not weed yesterday on purpose. It's the okra, and the seeds are just starting to germinate, and so I don't want to be ripping grass out because I could potentially rip my seedling out. So until those are a little bit more established, I'm going to have to leave the grass alone, especially with how wet the soil is. Anyways, enough jabbering. I'm going to flip the camera around and show you a little bit closer up what is going on. All right, like I mentioned, these first 2 rows is okra. I have burgundy okra on that one, and on this edge is Clemson spineless. And let's just kind of zoom in here. As you can see, my seedlings are just starting to poke through the ground. So I had started trying to pull some of this grass out, but in some of these holes, let me find a good one. Like this one, the okra is so close to the grass that I'm afraid I'm going to rip it out. So until this little guy's roots are a little bit more established, probably a few more days, I'm going to leave this grass alone, and then I'll come back out here and hit these 2 rows really well. But anyways, this is Clemson spineless okra. This row here will be the burgundy okra. And then as we come across this row, some of the seed is about 5 years old, and so I think I'm going to have to reseed this first section. It's supposed to be yellow, green, and white scallop, kind of in that order all the way down. And these first few holes have not germinated. I don't really see anything until we get down to here, and there is a squash. And then I don't see anything in this one, and here is a squash. So I'm going to give it just a couple more days. Like this one is just starting to poke through. So I'm going to give it a couple more days. But then I'm going to have to come through here and weed these as well once I know where everything is, and potentially reseed a few of these holes. So that's this row. This row here is another squash and zucchini row. This is golden zucchini, and I kind of heavily sowed it because I love golden zucchini and I wanted good germination. So I'll have to come back through and thin that. But every hole does have at least one. So that's this entire row here. And then this row here where you see the T-post is my row of paste style tomatoes. I have 22 paste style tomatoes in that row, and they are all San Marzano or Roma variety. So the first half is San Marzano, the second half is Roma. I'm gonna zoom in and show you kind of what those tomato plants are looking like. They have finally got a really good hold with their roots and are starting to take off. So let's take a closer look. Now these first half, the San Marzanos, I started a lot of these from seed. And then I did end up having to buy the Romas. I had to buy because I ran out. I didn't have quite enough, but they're still pretty small. Some of them are larger than others, and I missed a couple holes of weeding evidently. But I'm gonna have to come through probably later today or tomorrow and start my first row of Florida weave, and I will film that to show you. I'm not sure when that video will come out. It depends on when I get that actually done. But they are growing enough that they're gonna start needing some support here pretty soon. And I wanna make sure they're not falling over when we do leave for vacation. So I will get that done over the next week or so. Now, in between my 2 rows of tomatoes, which is the 2 rows that have the T-posts, I have 2 rows of bell peppers, poblanos, jalapenos, and Marconi red, and a couple pimento peppers. And some are doing better than others. It seems like to me that peppers almost look like they're not going to make it for a while after you transplant them, and then all of a sudden they will just start to take off. So I weeded these rows the best that I could, except for some of the peppers that looked a little weaker. I didn't get too close to them, so there is still some grass. But here's the thing. I know from several years of gardening that the better you take care of your plants, the more they're going to produce. So yes, weeds can be a hindrance to your production, but I also know that a weedy garden still produces. And so I just do the best that I can, and I come out every day and I try to keep up with it. And I also know that this is the hard part right now, because the seedlings are so little and tender that the weed competition is a little bit more important to try and stay up with. Once these plants really start to take off, they are going to start choking out some of the weeds. They're going to be a big enough bush, these peppers are, that it's going to shade out some of the area. The grass isn't going to grow as well. You'll still have weeds, but the peppers are going to be able to kind of stand their own a little bit better. So right now I'm just doing the best I can and weeding where I can, when I can, only spending about an hour a day out here trying to do that. I'm not letting it consume my entire life. But here pretty soon, it won't be as big of a workload to keep up with the weeding. This is one of the sunflowers I planted. I planted several just kind of around the garden just because there's some back there as well. There's a couple over here, one right here. I just love sunflowers, and when they get so big and tall, I think it just adds a lot to the garden, and they are starting to get to the point where they're really pretty and taking off. So this one's just here at the end of my first tomato row, which is what we're gonna look at now. It has all of my cherry tomato varieties. We're starting right here with some sun sugars. And then we have a couple of Isis candy. Look at how good this one is. I started these from seed, and I started this one from seed too, and look how tiny it is. But it's still surviving, so it's okay. This one is a cherry mix. It has different colored cherry tomatoes on it. Then we move down to some Lemon Boy slicers. The rest of this row is slicers. So we've got 4 Lemon Boys. And then we've got 4 celebrities. This is the best looking celebrity I have so far, and I need to do some pruning on those lower limbs. A couple of Kellogg's Breakfast, which is one of my favorite tomatoes. A Cherokee Purple that I'm trying to baby. Need to pull that out because it's the only one I got, but I love a Cherokee Purple. Solar Flare is also one of my favorites, so we put 3 of those in. And then we have 3 tomatillos down here at the end. I need to get a shovel and dig that grass out of that hole because it is really in there. While we're down here on the east end of the garden, I'm going to show you the blackberries really quick and the raspberries, and then I'm going to show you my little sunflower patch. So this is one of my raspberry bushes. I've only got 2 surviving raspberry bushes. I had 4 in here, but they didn't make it. But this one's doing okay. And then down here, well, I've got some pokeweed I need to get out of here. But down here I've got my blackberries. And as you can see, we do have some berries coming on. Now, these have only been here for a couple of years, so they don't produce just a ton, but they do produce enough for us to snack on. And I think I've told you this in my other videos, but the berry patch is really just not my priority right now. I'd love to get this moved out to the pasture and get some strawberries established, get some more blueberries. I'd love to have some honeyberries. I'd like to have some more gooseberries, but I'm really trying to get this under control first. And then maybe I'll move on to the berries. We'll see. Okay, and then this year I just put in 3 rows of cut flowers, and we're turning the rest of this back into yard where it can be mowed. I've got some sunflowers. These 2 in between, this one and this one, they actually volunteered and I just decided to leave them alone. I've got a row of zinnia here, and then another row of zinnia here. So that's about all I'm going to be doing for cut flowers. I would love to do more, but I can't. So that's what I've got. It'll still be a lot of flowers, and I'll be able to put some flowers in a vase on my table, so that'll be really nice. Okay, and then this is the 2 rows of bush beans that I had just put seeds in before the last midweek garden update, and they had not really done a whole lot, but look, they are popping through and standing tall now. And a couple of the holes are just now starting to germinate, so they're a little late, but they are germinating, so that's great. Same with this one, a little bit late, but you can see them poking through there. And I haven't finished coming through and weeding. Any little hole in this landscape fabric, there is going to be grass that grows through it. So when you put your landscape staples in, for example, staple, grass. So it's kind of hard to keep up with, but it's better than not having the landscape fabric at all. Now this one I'm not sure is actually going to do anything because that one might. But right after I had seeded these, we got all of that rain and it just kind of pelted things. And I really wasn't even sure if these 2 rows of green beans were going to survive all of that heavy rain because it was like washing the seeds up. And so I was thinking, oh great, there goes all of those seeds. But I'm pleasantly surprised. Only 1 of the holes seems like it didn't survive. So there is approximately 200 green beans right here. So that's gonna be a lot of canning in my future. I'm just gonna walk up the middle of the arch trellis here for you. We're starting out with some Blue Lake pole beans on either side, and they are starting to get really tall. Then we're moving into some Chinese noodle beans, which I'm very, very excited about. Then we're moving into some butternut squash, which the last time I had mentioned I wasn't sure they were gonna germinate, but they are finally starting to pop through. So we've got a little section of that. This one is supposed to be butternut squash too, and it is not germinating in this section. So I will either wait a few days and see, or put something else in there. This side is pickling cucumbers, and so is this side. So they're starting to germinate. These are my Kajari melons that are finally getting tall enough that pretty soon they're gonna be climbing this trellis. And I've got my little wind chime here that my sister and brother-in-law gave me for Christmas. So got that hung out here. I really enjoy listening to the wind chimes. And then over here, right past the pickling cucumbers and Kajari melon trellis, we have Space Master and Market More cucumbers. We've got another section of Space Master on both sides, and then pickling on both sides. So needless to say, we should have a really good cucumber year because they seem to be doing really good now. So as long as nothing crazy happens throughout the rest of the season, I should be canning some pickles, which is good because we only have like 1 or 2 jars left. Over here in my catch-all dump area that I still need to clean up, I started cleaning up some of the broken glass, and I'm trying to salvage the window frames and make something interesting, some sort of art for the garden out of those. So I just kind of tucked them here. Eventually I need to paint this. I have the paint inside of the shed. It's a pretty blue color, and I need to just finish priming the top there and put that blue paint on there. So hopefully I'll get that done soon. But I've got my beautiful sunflowers coming up that I'm really excited about. I've got a little patch of zinnia starting to poke through between that I think will be really fun. I've got marigolds that I put in here, and they are starting to put some little flower heads on, which is super exciting. And then I've got hollyhocks and zinnias, and I'm so thrilled. I think this is going to be a really beautiful area when it's all grown up and established. Let's head on over to the raised beds and then the west side of the garden, and then we'll do our container garden tour. So this was my extra raised bed that I have, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to put in it, but I had a lot of cabbage seeds. So I just threw some cabbage seeds in here. I've got red cabbage there. I've got some Brussels sprouts here. And then I had a few cauliflower, and they seem to be doing pretty good. So I'm really thrilled with that. I really hope my Brussels sprouts do good. It's been a couple of years. Actually, it's been about 5 years since I've grown Brussels sprouts. So I'm really excited for those. Down there at the end, I have a lot of beets and some carrots and just a few radish. And I have already started harvesting the radish, and they are delicious. So plan on taking a few of those with us on vacation with some salad greens, and I think that'll be really nice. In this bed, we have the garlic. It's doing pretty good. I haven't seen any scapes starting yet, but we should be very close to having some scapes. Usually around the first couple of weeks of June, I've got garlic scapes that I'm harvesting. And then as we come down, these are the Patterson white onions or yellow onions. And they have got a really good grip. And some of these, I'm gonna have to come in here and start ringing them. So that'll be a task. I have not finished weeding these beds. They need to be weeded. And I guess I'm gonna have to get the string trimmer and get in between them before that gets out of control. These are the red onions. And I didn't plant nearly as many red onions, but that's because they don't store very well. So these will be mostly for fresh eating and freeze drying, and they're doing pretty good. And over there we have some leek. My family really likes a leek potato garlic type soup. So I did do a few leeks. I will probably freeze dry most of them, just to throw into stir fries, to throw into soups, just to have something really easy to add a vegetable and some flavor and depth to a meal. Now over here, I wanted to show you my rose that I know nothing about and don't properly take care of. Seems to be doing okay. It is starting to bloom, and it has these really beautiful pink and yellow, almost tie-dyed blooms, and I think they are just stunning. And then in addition to my rose that's blooming, of course, my lantana is really starting to take off. Got a couple of spots of it. I've got some celosia, my beautiful iris over here. It was a gift from my mom's best friend, and it is stunning, especially with the sun glowing right behind it. It's a beautiful sunrise this morning. We've got a bunch of different things in here. So over here we have some yarrow that is starting to put out some beautiful little flowers. This is only about the second or third year on this yarrow. Second, I just put this in last year. So it's still pretty small, not a whole lot to harvest for bouquets, but by next year it'll be looking really good. I've got some daylilies coming up. I have a couple more irises that look like they are starting to put out some blooms. I've got some salvia. As we go over this way, I have some coneflower. I have several varieties of coneflower, so I'm not sure which one this one is, but once it opens, I'll know. It's either purple, pink, yellow, or that like sunset trio. And then I've got some bacopa here. I've got a little celosia. This is the Tidbits Tammy variety. It has tiny little frilly leaves, and I love it. And as we go over here, my zinnias are starting to pop through. So this little border garden is really starting to take shape. Okay, so this is the area of the garden that I have not been able to get to yet. It's on the list for today for weeding. But these are my dragon tongue bush beans all the way down, Roma 2 Italian beans all the way down. These are going to be my beans for fresh eating and adding to like some stir fries this summer and fall. And then I had tried to do a few kohlrabi, but didn't have a whole lot of luck with the germination. So I came back in and I put in lemon ball zucchini all the way down this row. So if they all germinate, that's going to be a lot of zucchini or squash. I'm not sure if it's a zucchini or a squash, but it's the lemon ball variety. And this is my broccoli row, and I'm super happy with how it is looking. And of course, like I said, I seeded a bunch of marigolds in between my broccoli and my cabbage, but they did not germinate. I told you that it was really old seed, and I literally at the end of the season had just gone through and grabbed a bunch of flowers off of the marigold plants before a frost. Whether they were ready or not, I just grabbed them, put them in a bag, and I was like, I'll figure it out later. I don't think they were quite there, but we did end up getting a frost, so I don't think I would have had the opportunity for them to get there. So I tried it 3 times. I put the seeds in, gave them a while to germinate, put the seeds in, gave them a while to germinate, put more seeds in, never did germinate. So I went and bought 12 marigold plants from a nursery because I wanted the marigolds here. I wanted it to look really pretty, bright orange and yellow, right between the cabbage and the broccoli, and so I went and bought some. And my cabbages that I thought were super leggy when I planted them seem to be doing pretty well. And I'm trying really hard not to slip on this wet landscape fabric. And that's really easy to do when it's wet. So this is my cabbage row. Show you some of the better looking ones. This one's trying to put a head on, and so is this one, getting ready to start trying to close up there. So they're looking pretty good. And then down here at the end, I put in some zinnia seeds. And then on this end, I've got a few starting, I put in some sunflowers. So we'll have a lot of color in here as well. Let's head on over to these couple of panels here. My nasturtium that volunteered is doing so well, and I'm super excited. I think this is the peach melba variety. We'll have to see when it puts flowers on, but I think that's the one. And got another sunflower here. These are my peas, and we'll have to see how they do. The seeds got washed a little bit away from the panel itself. Typically peas like to be like right on what they're growing on. They don't really like to reach a whole lot. So we'll see if that becomes a problem. I may have to kind of tie them up and encourage them, but hopefully we'll have enough cool weather left that they'll do okay. But this was that packet of seed that had gotten wet and I didn't want it to waste. So I threw a panel up in here, wasn't even planning on doing anything in this section, and we'll see if we get some peas out of it. Let me go to the other side of this panel. On this side of the panel, we've got some pickling cucumbers. I remember I told you in several videos that we got to have a good pickling cucumber year, so put a bunch in here. That's another one of my nasturtiums. I'm pretty sure it's a peach melba. I'm so excited to see it bloom. They are so pretty, and they taste pretty good. This is a cucumber. I must have dropped this seed out here because he's way far away, but that's okay. We can work with that. So I'm excited to see these trellises start to grow. And then this little section here, right through here, I've got some Napa cabbages. We'll see if they end up doing anything. And then volunteer potatoes. I had left a little section of potatoes last year, I guess. And this is the garlic, which is really surprising to me because I haven't planted garlic in this pot in my garden in 2 seasons. I didn't do it last year. It was 2024 when I planted garlic here. Didn't have any volunteer last year, and then all of a sudden this one volunteered. So that's pretty interesting to me, but I won't complain about extra garlic. Let's head on down and check on my son's garden really quick. He's been so excited. It's doing really well. And he's been so excited. He's been telling everybody about his garden. So let's look at it. This is my son's garden. He wanted some pretty flowers, so we went and picked out, he wanted the petunias, so we picked those out for him. And some zinnias back here is what he put in because they'll get really tall and he'll have some pretty flowers by his fort. And then he's got some rainbow beets, some green beans, and some lettuce. That boy loves salad, so he's super excited about his lettuce. I don't know that he's so excited about the beets to eat them, but he thought they were pretty looking. Okay, I think all that's left is our containers and our green stalks. So let's go take a look at the patio. So here is one of our green stalks. This is the one where I have a lot of kale and salad type stuff in here. So there's my kale. Here's some spinach. This is Swiss chard. It's the Rainbow Lights variety. There's more of the yellow. This one has a little bit more of the burgundy. And then we have Marble of Four Seasons lettuce. And this was supposed to be butter crunch down at the bottom. It didn't do very well. And honestly, neither did the romaine. This was supposed to be romaine on this side. So we'll have to reseed something in there. This is Pablo Crisp Head, and I was just growing it more as a cut and come again rather than a head style. And then over here we've got lemon mint going crazy, dill that smells divine, cilantro. I can't wait to have some tacos with cilantro. We've got oregano, thyme, chives, some sweet basil, and some rosemary. And then all of my little flowers are doing pretty good. I've got some geraniums. I threw a sage plant in my little ceramic pot here, and got my blueberries over here. So it's doing pretty good. I've managed to keep them alive so far. I'm not always the best with containers because you have to keep up with the watering a lot more. My in-ground garden, I don't have to water very often, except for when I'm first getting them established. But containers, you gotta water them all the time, the whole season. So it's only a matter of time before they start to die. Over here, my hibiscus is really struggling to find enjoyment in life. It has been raining and not super warm, so it hasn't really enjoyed that. My baby son Rose has not enjoyed that either. But hopefully once it starts getting hot and dry, this thing's going to take off. Same with this. I feel so bad. We have had so much rain. I don't know exactly what kind of palm this is, but it's some sort of a palm. And I overwintered it for my mom. And this winter in my bedroom, it looked wonderful. It doesn't love what's happening here. It's getting too much water, not enough heat. And that's the same with my purple heart. It's just not loving life out here. But hopefully here, as we approach June and July, it'll come back to life. This is just my absolute favorite part of the garden. I love this yellow green stalk. We have sugar peas that are going crazy, and I think as they get a little bit taller, they're just going to start to drape down, and that's going to be wonderful. We've got bunching onions that I can come out here and cut a few off and add to a meal. We've got some black-seeded Simpson lettuce. This is my favorite lettuce for making wilted lettuce. We've got some beets, and we've got some cabbages. So that is looking wonderful. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up this week's garden tour, midweek update anyways. Hopefully later on towards the end of the week or this weekend, I'll be able to show you that things are moving even a little bit further along. I think my okra will be taken off enough that I can do the weeding out there. Same with some of those peppers. So I'm going to try and get everything kind of tidy and neat and maybe do another tour here in a few days. But I really appreciate you guys watching. I'm so excited for everybody's gardens that I'm seeing posted. It's going to be a good year. I can feel it. I know we're going to have a lot of work to do with canning season, but the way my garden is taking off, I could not be happier right now. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a great day, guys.